watching some Shounen anime?
I am.
Yeah, let me tell you something interesting. All Shounen battles can be categorized as either puzzles or skill checks. Alright? JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, usually puzzles. Dragon Ball, though, that's a skill check. Alright? Hunter x Hunter, that's puzzles. One Piece has a lot of skill checks. Despite being about puzzles and games and rules, a lot of early Yu-Gi-Oh! Has some skill checks in there.
So, for Yu-Gi-Oh!, I remember it started it was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zero, where they had just, random games that usually just involve, hey, just do this puzzle, and, you're able to, if you win my stupid game, you can, keep your life. But then, somehow, Yu-Gi always, finds a way to, not really, cheat, but he'll skew the favors on his end.
Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh's kind of a mixed bag on where it falls on this spectrum.
Yeah. But it eventually became skill check because, hey, you need to just read the card. If you just, read your card, you can clearly see that you're breaking the rules right here. And, you lose the game. But, they don't really do that. They just turn monoliths of rocks into shooting quasar dragons and stuff. But we're not here to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
No, we're here to talk about Ranma 1/2, because this is a Ranma 1/2 podcast. Don't know what to do. As hosted by me, Heji, or Ranma Podcast. That's my name. And we also got you!
We have me, yes, we do.
I like how every time I do this, you never say your name.
No, I think people will remember by now, because it's not the first episode, is it?
No, but you never know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I have big enough numbers for people to be like, oh, I'm gonna start at the beginning of this playlist.
Oh man.
I bet there's people that just jump in at the beginning and this would be their first time hearing the voice of Swarley.
Yes, it's me. I'm back to talk about Ranma 1/2 and how well Ranma fights versus how well Ryoga fights, and who can use the best mixed martial arts technique to rob someone's house or sneak in and rob someone's house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
You pitched whatever I just asked, is there stuff you want to talk about that I always ask yes. You pitched fighting styles. And I remember at the start, I'm like, we kind of covered that, but that was really early on, but also I'm not sure what I would say. And thankfully, we've done enough episodes that I now have enough examples of things where I, discuss one part of an episode, but then I'm like, yeah, but we don't have time to go over the whole thing.
Right.
I'm not going to break down the entire history of Ryu Kumon in this story. We got enough to talk about. And now that I got enough of those, we could just kind of jumble a bunch of stuff together to just sort of have a general theme about the types of fights in Ranma.
Yeah, because going through the podcast, I noticed that you mostly mentioned relationships and characters and other the art style and music, and really kind of just gloss over the fights, which I really think that Rumiko Takahashi puts a lot of effort into the fights. Puts a lot of effort in the anatomy of how Ranma kind of bends around and moves, and how Ryoga, with a more rigid fighting stance, I guess, just kind of strong arms the whole thing and break stuff apart.
Yeah, admittedly that's harder to do in an audio-only medium, but yeah, You're right, those are important aspects. I believe I said, maybe in the very first episode of this podcast, that, Ranma doesn't feel like an action series that just happens to have romance in it, but it also doesn't feel like a romance series about action. It feels like both of those things simultaneously. They have equal parts, but, I don't know. It sometimes the balance changes depending on the era of the series that we're in, or if we're talking about the manga versus the anime or what have you. But those are all equal aspects. And sometimes it is just shonen action. Maybe not closer to what we expect of the genre today, but definitely closer to what was coming out at the time. In, those types of magazines. Again, I've said before, at this point in time, when the Ranma manga was coming out, Goku was fighting King Piccolo. That was still pretty early on.
Oh, I thought Dragon Ball came later. That's actually a surprise for me.
Yeah, no. Dragon Ball is slightly earlier.
Huh.
But
yeah.
they're roughly the same eras.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense. The Z would come out in the 90s, and then the anime would
Yeah, it was before Z, at least.
Yeah. But I remember I read way more Dragon Ball because I stopped at Z. But even and then, I know, like, you mentioned they draw a lot of similarities, both Dragon Ball and Ranma, to Chinese mysticism and, like, ancient culture and whatnot. And I think it's
more just people just liking kung fu movies.
Yeah,
as I said before, it was the 80s, and like
everyone liked. Yeah,
home video was a changing market. It was easier to just rent a movie, to just sit down, have some takeout, and just relax with some dumb, goofy action.
I did a test with my friends. We had Chinese takeout, and we watched dumb action movies. And it was a great time. It's a great time.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people, like, Kung Fu Fighting, the song, isn't about actual Kung Fu fighting. It's about guys who just walked out of a movie theater being like, oh man, that was some awesome Kung Fu fighting, and they had this and that and all this stuff. Like, it's about enjoying the Kung Fu movies and the culture. Because it's just easy to get into. But yeah. This is definitely there was definitely an era where, like, shonen action was still being modeled around, like, the Fist of the North Star type of action of, like, big, cool, big, muscly man wandering around and then just punches people, and he's just so strong, you know? Early Dragon Ball. Yeah. Like early Dragon Ball, Goku, like, a lot of the humor is Goku's just so strong. There's these big, huge buff dudes, and then this kid just punches them, and that's it. Like, the fights didn't really start to become, like, proper fights. I guess technically until we meet Yamcha, but even then, like, Yamcha, like, he wins the first time, but it's still pretty goofy until the first martial arts tournament.
Yeah, there was, actually, I think it was after or before Roshi. I think it was before Roshi. That's why, like, his Wolf Gale something fighting stance was like, oh, it's the first time people actually, you know, have a technique instead of just being ultra powerful and just punching boulders.
Yeah. Yamcha is definitely the first, like, proper martial artist that, like, Goku had to actually try to defeat, instead of just, I'm a big, tough, manly man with big muscles. Oh no, this kid just beat me. Oh, how wacky.
Yes.
And then from that point it began to escalate. Then we were introduced to Krillin. Then like Goku fought Roshi as Jackie Chun.
Oh yeah.
And then it slowly morphed into what we recognize today. But it wasn't immediate. Early on, it was just this big, cool, tough guy wandering around, and I'm just super strong. It's a different style of action, and yeah, that's just sort of how fights were.
I mean, even with Ranma, there was I remember a bunch of story arcs where it was it's the classic mysterious figure wanders in and then has this, like, crazy fighting move, and now Ranma has to discover what crazy fighting move to counter or kind of dissect it to finally finish off this attacker. But usually they rope him in with, like, a really stupid setup where, like, hey, he's gonna come in and take all, like, the steamed pork buns, or like, hey, this mysterious fighter might steal all the girls' underwear, or just something, like, ridiculous, and that's how the main characters get involved.
Yeah, my intro was only half joking. I feel like a lot of fights are in the puzzle or skill check. Like, Ranma categories, typically, sometimes it's just goofy sitcom nonsense. Like, this week, we got a weird bean-spitting plant that just attacks us, and it's really annoying, and we just gotta fight the plant. And sometimes we get actual, like, people instead of just a weird mystical object. But in terms of, like, fight scenes, like, proper fight scenes, and not, like, the sitcom equivalent of, like, Al Bundy from Married with Children punching a guy at a bar, like, proper, like, we are fighting, those can typically be split into the two categories of, like, kind of like stand battles. What are the rules? What is the enemy doing? Ranma has to figure it out. It is a puzzle versus the skill checks, which is like, there is no puzzle. It is just a matter of execution. Ranma just has to actually be good at fighting. And I definitely feel, especially as the series goes on, and especially once we start getting introduced to, like, ki-based attacks, the split between these two types of fights gets further and further apart.
Yeah, I mean, you can... What was it, the puzzle? The puzzles is more played up to comedy, won't you say? Like the fancy... Was it the fancy dining arc? Where Ranma has to eat... Was it eat faster than the other person?
Yeah, that one was a lot of, like, figuring out, like, how does this technique work? How can Ranma win under these specific conditions? And then him having to think creatively. And once he figures that out, there's still some, like, actual skill, but it's mostly just, like, Ranma has figured out a plan. He is improvising, but he has to figure out a solution to this conundrum. But, like, I think on the opposite of that, like, a good example is, like, say, when he fought Kodachi. When he fought Kodachi, he had to learn rhythmic gymnastics martial arts. Those are specific rules, but rhythmic gymnastics isn't especially complex to understand. Like, the rules were explained to Ranma, and he immediately knows what he has to do. There's no puzzle. It's just a matter of him having to practice and then execute those skills. When he's fighting Kodachi, he doesn't have to figure out her technique or her moves or how to work around the limitations. He just has to actually be a better martial artist than her. It is a skill check.
There was, I guess another parallel would be when Ranma had to fight was it the monkey? The little chimpanzee for the tea ceremony? And then they can only fight with the sitting mats still, like, attached to him.
Yeah, he does fight that. Oh, he also fights the grandma at the start.
Yeah.
Of that arc. The whole tea ceremony thing, that's another one of, like, it's similar to the fine dining thing. Here are specific rules where you have to look and act very dignified. With the fine dining rules of that martial arts, it's like you have to eat like a lady. You can't use your hands, you can't let anyone see you eating, and these are the limitations Ranma had to work around. And with tea ceremony, it's a similar thing. You have to constantly be sitting and poised, and you have to look dignified, and then it's just a matter of, like, wait, but that old lady is, like, zooming around super fast. How is she doing that without moving her legs? And just Ranma having to figure out how to, like, use his toes to scooch around, and it's like, okay, and then he fights the weird monkey thing. That's a long story, but
yeah. I guess it is nice that we mentioned these. This is not the first episode, so this is it's not going to go all over the place, because there's a lot of these, like, little story arcs that Ranma has to, like, learn rules of how to either fight someone or just, like, really dig deep and do a skill check of, like, okay, he's punching this boulder really freaking hard. How can I, evade and, like, counterattack it or whatever? It gets, like, really ridiculous if you're, like, we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, I like both types of fights. I don't think I have a particular preference. I think both can be executed really well. There can also be overlap. Sometimes a fight can have elements of both. But those are the two, like, sort of categories of, like, if there's a proper fight, it's gonna, like, Ranma's gonna have one of these two types of conflicts. So you mentioned, like, you recently reread a specific arc that,
yes,
like, that was your first example when you brought this up. And it is an arc that I briefly, well, not briefly, but I have discussed on the podcast. But it's another one of those that I'm like, well, we don't have time for that part. And it's the Ryu Kumon arc, aka the one where Ranma's mom ends up with this with the fake Ranma, the guy pretending to be Ranma. And that was relevant to the episode about his mom. I discussed the arc between Ranma and Ryu and his mom. But as I mentioned at the time, most of that arc is about, like, the rivalry developing and the inevitable fight between Ranma and Ryu. It's a lot more action-focused. And I didn't really discuss a lot of those parts, but, like, yeah, that is that is an arc that really kind of shows off like the different styles of fight scenes. It's Ryu is one of the like the main boss type of villains in the story of like, no, we're gonna spend like the next 12 or so chapters dealing with this serious threat. Which is funny because when you compare him to other characters of that caliber, of like, here's a big giant chimera monster, here is a descendant of dragon spirits, here is a literal god, and then meanwhile Ryu is just some guy.
He is a very fit and buff looking dude, if you want to make sure. Oh, and he wears a bandana, so he knows his stuff.
Yeah, he's got camo pants. That's
does,
how you know he's strong.
Oh, and he puts them into his boots and he laces them up, so he's serious. He's properly dressed for all types of terrain and situations. Whereas Rama is in pajamas. I can't remember. Like, I think the first time he showed up, he just kind of bust down the door, right?
Yeah, but like, yeah. So to quickly recap, Ryu's whole deal is that like we find out that Genma created this style, this martial arts fighting style that has two halves to it, and you have to master them both. And they're just so dangerous that he eventually sealed them away. No more of these. Can't let them fall in the wrong hands. Except he did kind of teach this one guy one of the two styles, and that one backfired. That guy is now dead. Which I think is just really funny how quickly they move past that. I'm like, oh, Ryu's dad is dead. It's mostly his fault, because at no point did he realize he was accidentally destroying his own house. But the end takeaway is him being like, Genma ruined my life. You must avenge me, son. Avenge the Kumon clan. And this is why Ryu pretends to be Ranma, which eventually draws the attention of the real Ranma, who's like, who's this guy? What's he up to? Oh, he's super strong. He wants the other half of the two style techniques that my dad refuses to teach either of us. What's going on? So, a lot of the arc is in that style of like Ranma having to figure out this puzzle of what even is this technique that Ryu is using, and also what is the second technique that Genma knows but does not want to teach either of these two, and then figuring out what is the connecting point between the two of them. Why are they so powerful together? So there's a lot of puzzle in this action segment.
Yeah, there was there's also like that mystery of like, what exactly is Ryu's kind of endgame besides just getting the secret scroll? It's like, oh, you're gonna avenge the father. Are you just gonna go home and like get another dojo and teach, like, have students learn the secret fighting style of both techniques or whatever? And Rama just like, well, I just have to prove that this guy is not the real Rama. I am the real Rama, but my mom doesn't even know that just yet. But I need this guy out of my life because he's kind of taking my spot as the as a son to the story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like it really plays well with like the core strength of this manga is we have a serious overtone of like a rival and opponent, like Rama and like another opponent. We have like the family dynamic in the background of like, oh, Rama still has to keep the status quo as best as he can, and we also have a cool fighting technique or plot device that we have to figure out and watch Rama like either get good at or just find a way to cheat the system. So I feel like it's a perfect it's one of the better written stories, and it really stands on its own because it really plays to its own strength.
Yeah.
Other than just like, well, we're just gonna try, like, like, again, we're talking about the fine dining arc. It's like, okay, it might throw someone off that we're going in this direction. Maybe they just want to see, like, me included, they just want to see more just core fighting again, just like more just classic Rama or Yoga, just duking it out and then having a fighting style that either one of them learns, and then we get to see them like have that in their arsenal, like in future in future fights or just future story moments or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned that like the two styles of action get further and further apart from each other as the series goes on. And I feel like Rumiko Takahashi recognized that, which is why as it went on, the formula for the series became more and more of like, here's like 30 to 50 chapters of just goofy, silly, like rom-com nonsense. And then here comes the serious opponent.
Yeah.
They're a lot more separated when it's like, well, now it's serious time. And in my opinion, I felt like earlier Ranma had a lot more interesting things going on because the comedy, the action, and the romance all existed together in harmony. And so when we got started to mostly get like, well, whenever we get serious, that's it. This is just a serious actiony arc. There's not as much comedy or romance there. And that's why I feel like some of those are a bit weaker. But I definitely feel like of the ones that have like zero romance, zero of that other stuff, this is pure serious storytelling with a couple of jokes here and there. I do think the Ryu Kumon arc is one of the better ones of those because yeah, as you said, like it just feels more balanced. Like the combat part of the story, the fighting, has a narrative to it. It feels more like there's more going on than just like, oh no, Frieza showed up, we need to defeat him. Like, it's not just some tough guy that they have to fight because of reasons. There are personal stakes involved, and there's like proper development, and unfortunately there are like 3 or 4 more times where Ranma ends up still not telling his mom the truth, but this one does try to push that narrative forward, and eventually ends with like Ryu, who has gotten close to Ranma's mom, being like, you need to tell her soon, like she deserves to know about her son. Like there's actual like character there, which is why I do think like yeah, Ryu is just some guy, but like I definitely like him more than some of the other major villains, like say like Herb, the dragon guy. He's just kind of he's the bad guy. There's not a lot of personality to him. You could easily swap him in with like one of the movie villains. He's just sort of there. But Ryu has like a proper motivation that does tie into Ranma specifically. This isn't we need to like defeat this demigod person. It's just that guy and me, we got beef and we need to settle this.
Yeah. I just want to mention real quick, I read this as the manga format, so it was really surprising to see that from page to page it covers one volume. So it really drives home like, oh, this is really conclusive of like Ryu walks in, drama starts, they get into a fight, Rama has to figure out what's going on, ask his father, and then like work through the technique, finds the technique, trains for it, and then ends up fighting Ryu, and all gets concluded in the end, and then you bookend that with the next time. But like the other arcs, no one like you can't really tell if Rumiko Takahashi is gonna write like, oh, this is gonna be for one quick chapter, or like the next 3 chapters, or like it's just gonna be like another recurring like part 1 here, and then she'll just write it again in like the next 5 volumes. But this one just feels like really tight. It plays to his like I said, plays to his strengths, and then we are able to see like beginning and middle and conclusion pretty clearly. We don't have to really like guess if there's any loose ends, or like they're gonna bring back this character, or is this fighting style just ever more present in the future.
Yeah, it does tie together well. Like I like Ryu, but I also feel like his story was done.
Yeah,
I don't think there was much to gain from bringing him back. Aside from one of the fighting games, because every single one of them had to have like at least one weird selection of like, really, you're putting the Gambling King in this one? Okay, sure, why not? But I always felt like a strong Ranma character, again, is when we can balance the action and the comedy and the romance elements. And a good, like, strong Rama character ties into all three of those things. And Ryu does not. Ryu has zero interaction with the romance. Ryu, like, funny things happen as a result of him showing up, but he himself is not especially funny. He is just a serious opponent for Rama to fight.
Yeah, he's just a boss battle.
Yeah, he is a boss battle. Once he's gone, we don't have any reason to revisit that. But there have been worse boss battles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think he's a strong one of those. And, you know, if this is the format that Rumiko Takahashi was going to use for the rest of the series of, like, here's a bunch of goofy nonsense, but now every once in a while, here's a boss battle to keep us on our toes. I think ones like Ryu work. I think that's preferable to, like, every major character joining the cast. I think it's good to have a couple just show up and leave. But yeah, he's a good one. And the action in that arc is also pretty good.
No, I feel it's very good. Yeah.
The solutions to the puzzle and how Rama figures them out, they're goofy still. This is still Rama. They're pretty funny once you learn what's going on, but also it's still pretty interesting. It's still pretty good, especially since there's multiple layers to it. Because at the start, it's just, what is Ryu doing? He's so strong and Ranma can't read his moves and it's crazy. And now Genma demonstrates the second half and he's so fast, Ranma doesn't even know what he's doing. And all we're told is that, well, the two halves of these styles are meant to, like, cooperate with each other. And that's all Ranma has to go on. But then eventually we get the second layer, when during the, like, Ranma figures it out. Like, Ranma sees Genma do it, and he's like, I got it. But it still takes like 2 or so more chapters for the audience to catch up, as Ranma is practicing. But he's practicing by just doing weird things. Like, he practices by, like, swiping the floorboards under the dining room, so everyone just collapses under the floor. He, like, sneaks into Akane's room and just starts stealing stuff from her drawers. It's like, Rama, what are you doing?
It's like, I'm training.
But eventually we do learn that it's house themed. It's all about the houses. That's why different moves are named after sections of a house. So Ryu's whole, like, swiping move is mimicking the motion of, like, kicking a door open and barging in. And other things, like Ranma swiping out the floorboards. It's like he's crouching down and spreading his arms and legs. It's very much like a Karate Kid sort of thing. Wax on, wax off. You're just doing weird things, but it turns out you're learning specific motions.
I just want to add real quick. There was one point. Was it Shounen, Akane's dad?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, "Wow, Genma is just genius. He mimicked the house design to the front of the body and then the back of the body. So your foundation is your legs, your arms are the door, I believe, and I can't remember what the torso was, but and the head is like the attic. And it's like, oh, all these moves are to target the human body, but in, again, house theme. And then we just found out, no, he's just trying to break open broad day, just like break open someone's door and steal everything, versus just outright burglary is what Robin eventually learns. And this is the two halves of the technique, is two ways to steal, to do home invasion, pretty much.
Yeah. So, like, their proper names were, like, the Path of 1,000 Seas and the Path of 1,000 Mountains. It sounds super mystical, and again, it's got the whole, like, Karate Kid thing, where, like, it looks stupid, but it's teaching you specific movements, and because it's house-themed, it's easy to remember. So Son sees, he's like, wow, this is actually a really good technique. It's powerful, it's simple, it's easy to remember, and it's hard for the opponent to read and understand, which is why Rama struggled with it at first. Like, one of the moves, like the barging in move, where you spread out your arms in, like, full force, like, part of that technique is you have to shout. You shout to startle the opponent so that they don't expect you to just like barge in, do that motion. And it's like, wow, this is so clever. But then, yeah, that Genma reveals, no, these techniques were made for robbing people. This is just, the alternate names is the path of the noisy thief versus the path of the silent thief.
I must have missed that. I guess all I remember reading was like, oh, the Thousand Seas technique. How can you learn? Or versus how do you know is the Thousand Mountain technique and like whatnot? Because they all have, every one of these moves has like a really long, intricate name. Like, I can't remember any of them, but like it wasn't just like it was very again Chinese mysticism where like. Like Talon swipes the frog, or just something like that, and we're just
those types.
And we're just looking at it as like, what's he actually doing versus like what's the goal of like like the opening move of Ryu busting down the door. He has his hands kind of to his chest, and he swings them open, and while he does a front leg kick, and that was supposed to. And the goal was to mimic him opening the door and kicking it down and yelling "freeze, no one move." Versus
the loud thief just barging in.
Versus loud thieves. And when we saw him use it the first time, it was I believe when he first used it to Ranma. Ranma had, I believe, a defensive stance, and he used both his hands, spreading open, grabbing I think Ranma by the wrist, and just like opening up his torso and then kicking him like right there. Into his chest. So we're kind of looking at this like, oh, this is a great technique. If you're just opening your opponent's defense and he's like giving him a strong front leg kick, he's definitely going to be like stunned. Especially at the shout, he's just like, what's he doing? If he just said shout freeze.
Yeah. And on the opposite end, we got the noisy thief stuff, like the part that Ryu's father wasn't taught, and it's treated as this big deal. But then eventually it's like, well, no, you need both halves because like. Neither one is effective for stealing in every situation. Sometimes you want to be a quiet thief, and sometimes you want to just be a loud burglar, like, give me all your money.
Right.
You need to be able to do both. And the quiet part is, that's where Ranma has to, like, swipe out the floorboards. That's when he has to, like, learn how to quickly open and close drawers, which, again, they thought the purpose of that was to learn how to, like, do a bunch of quick jabs. With like his hands are flat, so like he's jabbing with like the tips of his fingers, doing a bunch of weird motions to catch the opponent off guard. But it's like, no, it's like you can like open up the cabinets and steal people's like money and jewelry really, really fast. And that's the ultimate takeaway, is that like Genma being like, no, the problem with Ryu is that he's treating this seriously. He's treating it as like, these are super powerful techniques. But Genma's like, I didn't make these techniques to fight. I made those for survival.
It was...
Because as we often are reminded, Genma was homeless.
It was, the big payoff of the joke is, two techniques are a way of life, a way of living for Genma.
Yes.
And this is why he developed... It's so stupid. It still gets me.
Genma's got a baby to feed, okay? He needs to get that money somehow.
Yeah, but it's the payoff is like, I'm a martial artist, and my lifelong secret technique is just to rob people blind, because I can't make it anywhere else. So I just gotta do something. But I'm still a martial artist at heart.
Yeah, I also like the implications, because at the start we are told that, like, they were too powerful. That's why he sealed the techniques away. He destroyed the scrolls.
Right.
I like the implication that, like, Genma had to have used these a couple of times to successfully rob people before coming to the conclusion of, this is too much. I can't let these techniques fall into the wrong hands. So he chose to give up his burglaring ways for the sake of maintaining the peace.
Maybe someone caught on, like, hey, this person breaking down the door, I think I know him from somewhere. And, yeah, or maybe he just collected, like, a mountain of, like, of goods, and then people were just, like, kind of like, hey, isn't that, like, my jewelry box? And, hey, isn't that, like, my sack of rice? And, he has to just give up the gig. I don't know. It's Ranma. There's silly shenanigans every time, right?
We're also never told why he taught the one half of the techniques to somebody else, which is the interesting part.
And we also don't know how, like, I know we, like, at that point he perfected it, but we don't know, like, how long and how much Genma has been using before he has to seal it away.
At some point before sealing it away, he met Ryu's dad and taught him one of the two techniques, which does imply that by that point he was already convinced that learning both is too powerful.
Right.
So he's like, I'm gonna teach this guy one of them. But, like, that's just so interesting. Ryu's dad is depicted in a very comical sense of, like, he's training and with the house thing, and it just destroys his house. And it's just the Eric Andre bit of, like, why would Genma do this?
Why would he do this to me? Yeah, exactly.
Who destroyed my house? Aw, damn it, Genma! I vow revenge! So, to me, that's a very Genma move. So I like to think that there was, like, a kindred spirits thing in there. Like, Genma's like, you know what? This dude is also poor. He also has a son. And he's got a dojo he wants to take care of. I'm gonna throw him a bone and help him out.
Really similar situations.
Yes. Unaware of the fact that this dad is just as dumb as he is. And will literally destroy his own house for the sake of perfecting this technique and then blame him for it.
Well, obviously, he is never nowhere near Genma if a house can crush him with ease. Because I'm pretty sure Genma would have just walked out alive.
Honestly, I think the funniest part of Ryu, I feel like Ryu's dad dying is just there so that we can get the joke of when Ranma's mom asks Ryu about Genma. Cause she thinks that he's Ranma. She's like, where's your father? He's like, my father unfortunately didn't make it. He passed away. And she's like, oh! Well, anyways, what would you like for dinner? She just immediately moves on.
Yeah, he is quite a different character. Actually, she's kind of like similar to Genma and Rama's, like, kind of like aloofness. Wouldn't you say?
She is so aloof. I love her. She's so great. I love Nodoka. Again, we had a whole episode about her, but like even though the arc isn't about her, she's still a good part of this.
No, she's great. She's great.
She's also a key part in how Ranma can figure out the technique, because there's this whole thing of, like, it's implied that she had the scroll, but Genma sent her a message saying to destroy it. But then at one point, she sends a letter to Ranko, but then Ranma looks at it and he's like, I've got it. And then during the fight, we find out that the envelope with the letter was made out of the scroll. So, like, at that point, Ranma is, like, thinking, like, does she know I'm Ranma? Why would she send me this? She sent me this coded message, and it just happens to be the exact information I needed. And it looks like it's leading that way, but then eventually we find out that, it turns out she just doesn't like being wasteful. She always recycles things. So we just see her, like, cutting pieces of the scroll out to make envelopes. Whenever she has to send a letter, she just uses this scroll, you know? We gotta recycle it. Don't just throw it in the trash.
It's very much mom-like. I don't know what else to say.
But yeah, I like those types of, like, techniques. Honestly, I like when we get, like, a new technique. It's not a fighting style, but a technique. Which goes well with the whole anything goes theme, but, like, I wish we got more arcs of that, of, like, a proper new technique, or more specifically, I wish other characters besides Ranma and Ryoga got those moments of here is a new technique to incorporate into your existing fighting style.
Yeah, just real quick, I remember, and this is going way back at the beginning, when Ranma was fighting Moose for the first time, and it's the scene where the old man bathing pressure point?
Yeah.
Yeah, that got put on Ranma, and he was able to transform back to a boy again. and he hit Moose with this, as the manga was translated, the shish kebab leg kick grab thing or whatever. And it just made me think, like, what else does Ranma have in his arsenal? I know it's the anything goes martial arts, but like at that point, I expect like him just pull out, like a random stance, like like crane stance, again, classic Chinese like martial arts movie.
Yeah, the trope of every move has a ridiculously long and goofy name.
Yeah, and I don't know, just like it never really got brought up again, and even like later on, like Ranma has to like keep finding new martial arts move, but if you remember, like, well, he already is a disciple of the anything goes martial arts, so like, what the hell did Gamma even teach him other than just like, hey, this is how you live off being homeless, whatever, just running around China.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about like all the practitioners of the anything goes martial arts seem to have different philosophies into like why they do martial arts and what they do with it. And I find that fascinating because, as you point out, to Genma, anything goes means I am homeless. I am just doing whatever I can to survive.
Right.
But then you look at like Son, and like when Son does proper fighting, he gets out like samurai armor. He's got like a sword. It's very rigid and structured, honorable fighting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know who he learned that from, because that doesn't seem like what Hoppelsai taught him. Like, Hoppelsai, like, it seems similar to Genma, except it's less about, like, I need to do what I can to survive, and more like, I am, like, 200 years old. I have seen everything. Just, like, do you have any idea how many random things I picked up along the way? I can turn invisible for like 10 seconds.
Yeah, he can.
You can do all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, he's just a little guy. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, it's very much that. Just, I can do whatever I want. Which is very different from how Genma does that. And then you go to like the third generation of the school and you get to Ranma, and it's less about like survival. It's less about doing what you want and more about just being really, really competitive. It's more about this like sense of pride of like, no matter what you throw at me, I can figure some way of getting out of it. I need to be able to think fast and improvise, and I am so good at that it is a sense of pride. If I can't do that, I will obsess over it until I figure out this solution. And it's a completely different representation of anything goes, but like, all three of these philosophies revolve around just like, whatever technique I see, I'm gonna learn it if it seems useful to me.
Is this a good time where I can mention Drunken Master 1?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so like you just said, Ranma has to, like, his style of anything goes is just to incorporate any new style of martial arts that he finds to beat his opponents. Well, and Jackie Chan is kind of like, the whole movie is kind of like that too, where he started out as being one of the best, I guess, disciples of, I can't remember like what specific fighting style, because there was like a bunch of them that he was taught, but it was the animal fighting styles, and then he was later beaten up by the assassin, and then it was only after like the humiliation of getting just like get completely stomped on that he has to crawl back and learn properly the Drunken Master technique. And it was in the movie there was the last stance of the drunken lady. I can't remember, like it was like Master Ho or something, and she or Jackie like didn't want to learn that because like, oh, that's for girls. Like, this fighting style was specifically made for women, so I'm not gonna learn it because I'm a dude, I'm a man. I'm gonna learn the drunken dude with a really busted right leg. I'm gonna learn drunken dude with carrying the big pot of was presumably alcohol. And later on in the final fight, Jackie Chan had to was going down the roster of like, oh, available moves, and he hits the last one. It's like, oh, I'm actually kind of getting my ass kicked. Oh crap! I didn't learn the last the Miss Ho's drunken fist because that's for girls, that's for sissies, whatever, blah blah blah. And he on the spot developed a new fighting style within Drunken Fist, where he incorporate all his learnings to create a certain stance or just a new flow of techniques. And it's kind of like how Rama would in his fighting styles, or in his little arcs, where he would learn the technique and then has to kind of tinker and kind of break down okay, what specifically in the technique that I know and what's in my wheelhouse that I can take full advantage of and be the most useful thing, and I'll just use that instead and not really rigidly follow whatever he learned before.
Yeah. Rama's similarities to Jackie Chan are a big reason for why he's one of the best shonen protagonists.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the Ranma style. And like I said, I kind of wish we got more of that with other characters. It's not like Moose gets better at concealing weapons. He just kind of does what he does at the start, but he's still doing the same things by the end. This is where kind of power creep starts to sink in.
Yeah.
With Ranma over time. But aside from Ranma, the only other character that really incorporates this sort of thing is Ryoga. Whether Ryoga realizes it or not, he's pretty much a student of anything goes martial arts. That's his fighting style, more or less. He is doing the exact same thing as Ranma. Ryoga doesn't have a specific theme. He just kind of does whatever he picks up along the way of, oh, this is useful. I'm going to learn how to do this, because I might have to use that at one point. And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, Ryoga wasn't even a martial arts practitioner. He just wants to get back at Rama. We talked about this when Rama keeps stealing his lunch.
Yeah.
And then Ryoga's like, oh, screw this guy. I'm going to get back at him. And he spends the rest of his high school career chasing down Ranma. That's it. There's nothing about him that he's doing karate or any martial arts.
There's no implication that Ryoga had any formal training prior to meeting Cologne and her recognizing that he is Ranma's rival, that he needs to keep up with Ranma. Other than that, it just seems Ryoga is just naturally strong, and he's just the type of person to be like, hey, that looked cool. I'm going to start doing that. His parents are not martial artists. I think there's a joke at one point that implied that his parents are travel agents because, like Ryoga, they're also constantly getting lost, so they're just traveling the world, I guess, by accident.
Wow, yeah, awesome.
The 2 or so times we ever see Ryoga's house, there's just a bunch of sticky notes everywhere because it's implied that Ryoga and his parents, they keep missing each other because they're never at home. They can never find their way back.
Oh man, like ships at sea. Yeah.
Yeah, but no martial arts background. Ryoga just sort of picks up whatever. And yeah, you see that throughout the characters. I also kind of like, this does tie into another thing about the series, which is how it handles ki and fighting energy. And I like the way that it almost exclusively exists to justify weird techniques. There's no system to ki in Ranma. There's no power levels. There's no nen or chakra. It's just how do you use your fight energy to do weird stuff?
It's stamina at the end of the day, right? It's just pure stamina.
Yeah, pretty much. It is just fighting energy. It is again very martial arts mysticism. It's whatever justifies the goofy martial arts stuff that Rumiko Takahashi wants to do. It's the kind of like the fantasy equivalent of technobabble. You know, when science fiction characters just say a bunch of made up words of I guess this makes sense in their universe.
It's like the Allspark.
I guess you could just do this with your fight energy. I guess Cologne can just manipulate her energy to shoot water really fast in the shape of a shark, so that she does a little shark kamehameha to shoot at Ranma.
Yeah, a little shark hooted. Yep.
I like the way those work because every time we learn a new way of using ki, it's never just this is my fight aura and I'm super strong, so my aura is better. It's always about like what you do with it specifically. Like the closest we ever get to like just I can shoot a Hadoken is the Shishi Hokodan move that Ryoga learns, where he can just shoot energy blasts. But like the whole point of that move is that you have to be depressed. You are channeling your dark thoughts into energy that you just shoot. And it's so like it has the extremely obvious downsides of like, well, now you can shoot fireballs, but also you're depressed and probably not in the best mental state to be fighting.
Hey, it worked for Yoga in that arc.
Yeah. The whole takeaway of like that arc is that like that like Cologne recognizes what the move is and Ranma wants to learn what it is. She's like, no, if you two master this, you'll destroy yourselves. And it sounds like she's trying to paint as like this is a dangerous move. But what she actually meant is that, well, once Ranma and Ryoga both know how the technique works, then it just becomes a matter of them trying to out-depress each other. Of like, I bet I can think of even more dark thoughts and shoot an even bigger depression fireball. Well, no, I could think of even worse thoughts. I have so much self-hatred to shoot out, and it's just like, oh no, now it is just the worst arms race.
Yeah.
But yeah, techniques tend to have stuff like that. Other key is like say like Miss Hinako, the teacher, who can like absorb ki, but she has the whole thing where like she has to absorb it through a circle. And they never clarify, but at one point, like her last technique when Ranma disarms her is she makes a circle with her fingers. And I always found that so fascinating because if she can just use her fingers, why does she need anything else? Why does she need a coin? Why does she need a hoop? Why does she go out of her way to get tools that are round if she can just use her fingers? Why does like in the middle of the fight she switches from like a 100 yen coin to a 500 yen coin as if that matters?
A bigger circle, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, they never explain it, but there's still an implication that like different circles are different. It's not just I have a circle, now I can absorb energy and shoot it back. Like she's doing something. There's some kind of technique to what she is doing, and the fact that like with her fingers is like her last resort makes me think that like maybe it's like it has to be a perfect circle. The more perfectly round it is, and the size matters. And you know, you can make a vague circle with your fingers, but it's not going to be a perfect circle.
Yeah.
So she'd rather use like a coin with a perfectly drilled hole in the middle. And that works better. But like either way, however it works, she's clearly doing something. There is some kind of rule that she is following that she had to learn and figure out so that she can learn this technique that allows her to shoot energy and absorb it. She can't just shoot Kamehamehas whenever she wants. There is some sort of technique being done here.
Yeah, the fight energy too, it's kind of put like if like the different fighting styles are kind of fast and loose, and we already know like the saying goes anything goes martial arts. Like we already kind of can anticipate like the random like whatever fighting styles get thrown in the mix. Fight energy is even written as looser, where hey now just like we're gonna do magical fighting moves and whatever like. Instead, like just expect anything at this point.
Yeah.
Like at least with the fighting styles, like you're gonna have to like it's gonna be a physical martial art versus like fight energy. I can shoot like in shark Hadoukens or whatever. Like have you or I can steal your life force or something like that.
Yeah. I feel like the key stuff never goes too far in Ranma. By the end, they're fighting a literal god, so maybe by that point. But prior to that, like I said, with Miss Hidako, even if the audience don't know the rules, she's clearly following a set of rules.
Right.
there's clearly something she had to learn and perfect. Like, we see the montage of her as a child being taught by Hopplesai. Like, he is teaching her this technique. And also, more importantly, he doesn't use it himself. Hopplesai doesn't do the circle thing to absorb ki or shoot it. Presumably, it's not his thing, he doesn't master it, but he knows what it is. He can pull it out of his pocket to be like, oh, this child could benefit from this specific technique that I just happen to know, because again, I'm old. I know a million things. I picked up all sorts of techniques, and I'm not going to perfect every single one of them, but I at least know enough to teach someone how they can perfect it. Like, it is relevant that it's Hopplesai, because I think Hopplesai's like the first thing that's like, no, this is fight energy. Because prior to that, like, when Cologne does the shark Hadoken, it's described as like she's just like punching the water really fast. There's still some attempt to give it like an explanation that is vaguely grounded in reality before we just go full on magic with the fight styles. But over time we got less and less in that. It's like, no, they're just doing energy attacks, which is why I like the remake went back and like changed the visuals of fights like those so that the shark Hadoken, it looks like it's made of energy. It looks like very clearly she's doing some kind of ki manipulation, even though in the manga it's not explicitly that. No. They don't say that she's using ki.
It was just water, right? That's what we
yeah.
It was drawn like water.
Yeah, but in the remake they made clear that like, oh, this water is like glowing and has weird energy in it. She's doing something. Like mystical martial arts with the water. It's not just her shooting it really fast. So like, yeah, that stuff does change over time. But in the manga, at least, I believe the first like explicit thing of like, they don't even call it ki, they just say like the fight aura of Hopplesai is super powerful and it's enough to like push Ranma back, and it's like, oh, this guy is strong. But Hopplesai doesn't do anything with his aura. And in fact, the joke is that whole arc ends when like they anger him so much that he basically like shoots out his aura to like take on the shape of like a big giant kaiju-sized Hopplesai. And that the joke is that Genma steps in, he's like, leave this to me, kids, I'll do it. And he also does the same technique. He makes a big giant like energy panda, and we got these two like kaijus getting ready to duke it out. And then they just disappear and they both pass out, and it's like, all right, I'm out. That took all my energy. I'm pooped. And Rob was just like, but you didn't even do anything.
Yeah, you didn't do anything. You set it up and nothing happened.
But at the very least, the joke does establish that, like, yeah, emitting your energy like that does tire you out. The whole joke is that, like, okay, we could just make our energy do kaiju battles, but literally just forming the kaiju is enough to knock us both unconscious, because like that's tiring stuff. I'm not doing that.
You would think Hopplesai would outclass Genma in this situation easily, but I guess not.
Yeah, again, similar to the coin thing, it's not like Hopplesai does this regularly. I think there are just some techniques that like he knows how to do them, but he didn't master them because he's got like a million things he knows how to do. But yeah, I suppose the other key, like the most notable ki-based thing that it kind of becomes Ranma's signature move, the one that he uses most often, is the Hiryu Shoten Ha, the rising dragon tornado attack.
Yeah, I thought. Wait, wasn't the counter to the depression fireball was like the courageous tiger and then just Ranma yelling or something?
Yeah, Ranma does, like, Ranma figures out how to channel, like, his pride, his, like, positive, selfish energy, as opposed to depression, to do the same thing.
He has a lot of that.
And that is interesting because nobody taught him how to do that. He just concluded of, like, well, if you can turn depression into fireballs, why can't you do that with other thoughts? And, like, that's useful, but also he never uses that technique afterwards.
Yeah, I thought he did.
I don't recall. Pretty much any time he does ki attacks after that, from that point on, it's some variation of the Hiryu Shoten Ha. So, there might be, maybe I'm forgetting, like, one or two examples where he shoots a fireball, but, like, it's clear that, like, overall, Ranma prefers the Rising Dragon technique. That seems to be his signature thing. That's the one he uses most frequently, despite the fact that it's not the last one he learns. He does learn the prideful lion Hadoken thing, as opposed to the like, I forget what the translation was for Ryoga's version. Again, these are just long martial arts names with goofy long titles.
Really goofy, yes.
Like, by typical shonen rules, if he learns it later, it's because it's stronger. But, like, Ranma doesn't operate by that logic. It's not that it's stronger, it's just a different way to channel his ki. And, I don't know, I would think that, like, feeling a sense of pride and selfish energy is easier to channel than the whole, like, hot and cold energy spiral thing. But I don't know. Ranma does seem to like spirals, I guess. He's got the little, like, Naruto cake patterns on his pajamas.
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know, maybe he just likes the technique.
It is cool. Maybe he just likes... Because it's a... When he does it, he has to end in an uppercut, like, motion, right? Like, that's the whole technique.
Yeah.
Maybe he just likes doing that. Like, who knows?
I like that becomes his signature move, because, like, when he's taught it, Cologne has to teach him very specific steps that he must perfect. But once he perfects it, almost every time he uses it, he does not meet the exact requirements. He's improvising. He is figuring out, well, these steps exist for this reason. But similar to the depression thing, he's like, well, it doesn't have to be depression. What if I do the technique this way? And that's sort of his strength and how he's able to improvise. Is he's able to take apart the different pieces of a technique or a fighting style and be like, well, this works this way because of this. Therefore, I can apply something different to it and mix things up a bit. I can mix and match. That's what true anything goes is about. Is that he can just take apart different pieces and rearrange them, and it still works. Because he understands the fundamentals of how they work, and once he has figured that out, then he can start playing around with them and do different things. He can conclude that, like, okay, the spiral thing is because I need a spiral of energy, and the quickest way to do that is for me and my opponent to move in a spiral and have opposing energies of hot and cold.
Yeah.
Very simple, but it doesn't take him long to figure out that, like, hey, there are other ways to make a spiral. There are other ways to make hot and cold energy clash. Those are the ingredients of this move, but he doesn't have to do them the exact specific way that Cologne taught him. He can do variations. Which does bring me to, I think, one of the more interesting fights in the series. If only because it's from the OVAs.
Oh, okay. So I probably have never heard of this before, because I just read the manga, yeah. So
technically the OVAs had the Christmas special, which was not based on anything, but, like, that's a Christmas special. There's no plot there. There's no story to it. It's just, let's celebrate Christmas. But there was a 2-parter OVA special, like 2 parts on one tape. Like, that's basically just a movie where they deal with this new threat. I'm referring to, I wrote down their names because I always forget. Natsume and Kurumi, aka Son's illegitimate daughters.
Oh. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So yeah, the plot of that OAV is these 2 girls show up claiming to be Son's daughters. And Son insists that he does not know what they're talking about. But the joke is that, like, despite him saying this constantly, we still get, like, moments of, like, Kasumi being like, "Father, you didn't!" He's like, "No, I didn't!" Why won't anyone believe me? But the whole plot is these two girls show up. They believe they have found their long-lost father, who they only met once when they were really little, and he told them about the Anything Goes School of Martial Arts. This is the part why it's hard to believe Sewn, because they were taught about Anything Goes martial arts, and they were told about the dojo that could be theirs if they become big and strong and become true martial artists. So of course now they're here, now they're big and strong, and they challenge Akane and Ranma to claiming the dojo. Like, we should inherit it because we're better. And they fight, and Ranma and Akane lose. That's the end of the first OAV in this story. Is they lose. Akane is upset. She runs away. Ranma goes after her, and it's like, to be continued. And then the second half is Ranma and Akane, for separate reasons, both refuse to come back until they've done some training. And then they do the rematch against the two sisters. And at that time they win, and things get straightened out. So we eventually find out that it turns out the man that they met when they were little kids was actually Happosai. And unfortunately it does not take long for them to just punch him through the roof, and it's like, god damn it, Happosai ruins everything. But unfortunately he doesn't get to explain much, because I think the weakest part of this OVA is that it has interesting ideas but just doesn't bother explaining them. Because the whole time I'm like, but why did Happosai tell them his name was Sewn? What, what's the reason for that? Like, they literally have a photo of a man wearing a jacket, like, but it's so poorly taken, you only see his back with the jacket saying Anything Goes Martial Arts.
Right.
And on the back it's signed like, hey girls, I hope one day you grow up big and strong and you can inherit the Anything Goes School of Martial Arts, or my name isn't Sewn Tendo, your father. And at no point do they explain why he does this. He just does. I don't know. Maybe he just thought it would be funny.
Isn't that that using someone else's name and then you doing a crime or something wrong, already a trope?
I guess, but like, he doesn't commit a crime. He helps these girls. These girls were homeless. They were two little orphan kids living in the streets. And like, Happosai is even like, yeah, I helped them. Of course I taught them martial arts. It's the exact same thing as Miss Hinako. He encountered these little girls who like, hey, I know how to help them. I'll teach them martial arts. That's how the kids grow up to be strong and healthy. Like, it's established that Happosai just does this, but like, why did he lie and tell them he was Sewn? Why did he promise them that they would inherit Sewn's dojo?
I maybe it's just to get back at Sewn. Maybe we're missing a piece of
Maybe, like, I feel like they could have made a joke out of it, but they just don't. They just don't even try to explain why he does it, which is the weird part.
Yeah, maybe the joke was like half written, and then there's no punchline.
Yeah, a lot of this story feels half written, because in addition to that, we got the whole, like, part of why Ranma and Akane lose is because they can't coordinate together. By which I mean mostly Ranma can't coordinate with Akane. And Akane then gets mad at him, and the two just start fighting each other. But it's pretty much, both times it's pretty much Ranma who starts it, but like, Akane falls for it, she gets angry too. So even though it's mostly Ranma's fault, they both have this whole thing of like, well, these two sisters are perfectly in sync. They have trained together. They fight together. They know how to fight together. They even have, like, their ultimate move is basically like a Chrono Trigger team-up attack. But Ranma and Akane just can't do that. They can't cooperate. And it feels like they need to learn some kind of lesson. But, like, in the second half, when they're both training, neither of them really, they train separately. They don't train with the intention of working together. They just train of like, well, I'm gonna be able to beat up those sisters, and they both challenge them at the same time. Like, Akane shows up, I challenge you, and then during the fight, Rama's like, no, 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 wait, I challenge them. And it's like, okay, fine, we'll do a 2-on-2. But like, at no point do Rama and Akane actually learn to cooperate. So again, it feels like it's half written of like, well, I guess they learned their lesson, but none of the things they did push them towards that. Like, Rama trains by like, they have this whole thing where like Genma is like, Ranma, like, you lost to a bunch of girls because you don't understand women. You fail to recognize your girl side. You need to like, you're relying on your male self as a crutch, but you need to be good at martial arts in both forms. So no turning into a boy. You got to figure out your feminine side. And I'm like, well, one, he kind of already did that in previous arcs, but also two, that lesson has nothing to do with why he lost. It's just bizarre. And then he trains by like getting a bunch of kids to throw bricks at him from a bridge, and he tries to punch the bricks in midair. And again, I'm like, I don't understand how this is meant to teach him to cooperate with Akane, because that not only is that how he lost, but then when they eventually win, it's because him and Akane do their own team up attack. So it's just bizarre.
Didn't Rama and Akane had to work together in the figure skating arc?
Yeah, and that one, and also when fighting the Dojo Destroyer.
Yeah, so I mean, I know it's an OAV, so like we're gonna have to give it a pass for like canon, but it seems like we already had this story multiple times of like, hey, eventually Rama and Akane can put aside their differences and work together, and you know what? They make a great team.
Yeah. Oh, in fairness, in the figure skating one, Rama and Akane don't work together. Like, eventually Akane gets swapped out for Ryoga.
Yeah, and he broke the ice. Yeah, he like broke the skating ring.
Yeah. And then with the Dojo Destroyer, part of that joke is like Ranma is like on a date with Shampoo because she promised him the Jusenkyo powder. And Akane is like getting her ass kicked by this Dojo Destroyer guy. And it's like, where's Ranma? And she's like, I don't need Ranma. But then Ranma shows up. He's like, let's work together. So that one, it's not that they have to learn to work together. It's like, as soon as Ranma shows up, he and Akane just know to work together. We both have to defend the dojo. Yeah. There isn't a lesson learned beyond just like, maybe Ranma should have ditched Shampoo to help Akane because she clearly meant more to him. That's the lesson he learns. So them having to cooperate and work together and like team up properly, I could see that being that's sort of territory that has been explored, but not fully. So making, again, this is like movie length with 2 specials. Having a whole story about that, I think could have worked. Again, I think the reason the Ryu arc worked is because the combat, the action is tied into the character development. And here it's just so bizarre that like they do that. They establish the character development, but then they don't actually develop. They don't learn to work together, and then they just work together anyway. It just feels like the middle chunk is from a completely different story that replaced what was supposed to be there. Very bizarre. And on top of that, another thing in this arc that sort of feels half-written is the 2 sisters, Natsume and Kurumi. Their fighting style feels like it's properly thought out. Like there is stuff there. They work together. They are manipulating their ki in a specific way, but at no point is it explained or even established that they're using ki. You just kind of look at them and being like, oh, well, they're doing ki stuff, but no one's calling attention to it. It feels weird. It feels like we're supposed to be getting one of those moments of like, well, with the spiral or with the depression or what with the Hadoken shark. Like, it feels like someone should be commenting on what is happening on screen and being like, oh, they're doing this with their fighting energy, but they don't. Yeah. But what I find very fascinating about these sisters and their ki attacks is that they basically reverse engineered the Hiryu Shoten Ha. Because there's the whole gimmick, they have a hot and cold theme. Natsume is the older sister. She's very calm and collected. And when she hits you with her stick, they're like, oh, that stick is freezing cold. It's got cold energy. Meanwhile, Kurumi fights with a ribbon, which is, that's kind of Kodachi's thing, so I don't really like that they gave her that weapon. But the ribbon is the opposite. She's the younger sister. She's loudmouth. She likes to eat. She's very energetic.
She likes to eat. Okay, yeah. Sorry, that's one of the traits. Like, oh, she likes to eat, and she's hot-headed. It's like, oh, okay, it's like related, I guess.
Yes. The story begins with like these girls are like, Kurumi is robbing people because these girls are homeless. Cause she's got a big appetite. She's stealing people's food, and then Akane meets them, and like she starts getting mad at them, but then sees like, oh, these girls are just hungry. Well, here, I got some snacks. Have them. And they're like, wow, this girl's so nice. We're gonna follow her home and like show our thanks. And then while they're there, they're like, oh yeah, we're just looking for a long lost father. His name is Son Tendo. But like, yeah, Kurumi, she's the hot energy kid, so when her ribbon hits you, it like burns you. It's like, oh, that's hot, don't touch that. And of course, when hot and cold energy combine in a spiral, that's the Hiryu Shoten Ha. That's literally the technique that Ranma learns from Cologne. But they do it themselves. Nobody taught them that. They just figured, okay, we got the ribbon, twirl it in a spiral, and then use the stick to hit cold energy in between, and we make the little tornado ki attack that hits with the hot and cold energy. And it's super powerful. And I'm like, that is just the Hiryu Shoten Ha. They just figured it out how to do it on their own, and at no point does anyone comment on it.
So, would you say that in the universe of Ranma, there's always different ways to reach the conclusion in terms of like a fighting style, because they're interacting with ki in the same way, just doing it differently, or having like just the similar elements of like again hot and cold to create the tornado. But in this case, this technique needs two people to activate it, whereas Ranma just needs to trick your opponent to do something else, right?
Yeah. Ranma still needs a source of hot and cold energy, and he can only provide one. He needs to find a way to get the other half, but with these two sisters, they both have that covered. They can both work together. And like, that and the whole thing of Ranma and Akane having to learn to work together, and the tying that into the whole family thing, because there's some good character development here, where like Akane runs away and refuses to come back until she's stronger, and the sisters have an interesting reaction. Like Kurumi, the younger sister, she's sad. She's like, but like this girl grew up homeless, and now she finds out, oh, not only do we get to meet our dad, but we also have 3 sisters. She gets to have a family, and she's sad that them showing up is causing this family to fall apart. Akane runs away from home. Ranma runs away from home to go after her, and now they're both training and fighting over this dojo, and Kurumi is like, but is it worth it? I didn't want this. And meanwhile, Natsume, because she's the cold energy one, she's like, but this is what we must do. We have to uphold the anything goes school of martial arts. It is important. It is what has been passed down to us from our father. And I'm like, again, when you look at the Ryu Kumon arc, there is proper character development there. It ties into the action. It ties into the narrative. And we get all of that set up here. And it's just the middle part. It feels like there is just a middle chunk that is missing, or not missing, but just got replaced. because all the pieces are there for a really, really good arc on par with the Ryu Kumon arc. There's a lot of development there. It ties into the characters. It ties into Ranma and Akane's like weaknesses that they need to overcome. It ties into their fighting styles and what they have to do to work together. Cause the way they win is like the girls are doing the spiral thing, and Rama's like, Akane, jump into the spiral. And she's like, are you crazy? That's gonna kill me. He's like, just do it, trust me. And then he does a reverse Hiryu Shoten Ha. He takes their energy and then shoots it back. And because Akane is in the middle of the spiral, the tornado energy launches her forward at super fast speed, so she can just punch them going super, super fast, just knock them out instantly. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, they work together. The way they fought ties into the spiral thing, and everything ties together. Except that's not what they trained for. Ranma having to punch those bricks that the kids threw at him doesn't help him in any way. Even Akane, like, Akane's training, her training is basically to ask other people for help. Which, again, it's like, but that has nothing to do with why they lost. But we still have to have this moment of her, like, asking Shampoo and Ukyo to spar with her. And we do at least get the joke that, like, I love whenever the series does this. Of, like, Akane being like, wow, you two, thanks for helping me. You really are friends. I knew I could count on you. And then cut to the two girls being like, I can't wait to betray Akane. This will be the perfect time to murder Akane!
Right.
But yeah, strange arc. But, like, I guess there's a good comparison to the Ryu stuff, because, like, the pieces are there. They don't click together. But you can see how a proper arc could have been formed that, like, makes good use of all this martial arts stuff, and it could have led to a really cool fight scene.
But the OVA, this is an OVA, right? As you mentioned?
Yes.
It's who wrote it? It's the people who worked for the anime, right? Like this, like story writers.
Yes.
So, they're probably taking like a lot of liberty, just like to write their own like canon or a Ranma story arc. But don't you like maybe they just want to play around with the characters and not really like think about like, oh, let's just make something stand out or whatever. Like they're kind of,
I guess
maybe they're just writing in more of the guise of like this might be more like a like a filler arc or just something like really quick that we can do like bookend.
Maybe, but like this is an OVA. This wasn't like the anime has ended, and these are just like we made like 12 or so of these like specials
12
that are like they're slightly
yeah
they're higher budget, they're better animated, they're slightly longer, and like this is based instead of making an extra season, it's just over the next 4 or 5 years, we're just gonna release a couple like direct to video specials, and like most of them, like again, the animation budget is higher, the episode lengths are longer. It feels like they're taking them more seriously, and as I mentioned, aside from the Christmas special, which doesn't really have a plot per se, this is the only OVA with an original story. This is something they wrote to be a proper two-parter. There are no anime storylines that end in a two-parter, let alone OVA ones, which are like movie length. Like, this is a proper story. This is pretty much the only time that the anime has an anime exclusive story that we're meant to take completely seriously, other than, like, the movies. Because that's basically what this is, really. It's a direct-to-video movie. It's the same length when you combine the two episodes as the actual theatrically released films. Here is a serious threat that shows up. So, like, I guess it would be more fair to compare this OVA to the movies rather than like a random filler episode, because that's sort of what it's trying to do. Yeah. The same thing as those. But yeah, just interesting concepts, because yeah, I do like that like they're doing the same thing that Ranma does, but slightly different. they're doing anything goes. Nobody taught them to do that. They just figured it out themselves. They're just doing whatever. These are homeless girls doing what they can to survive.
The showrunners, upon adapting Ranma, have developed their own anything goes martial arts technique by the way of animating.
Yeah, despite them thinking that Son is their father, they definitely seem to be closer to Genma in terms of style and how they fight and how they learn. There's a pattern here.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's those fights. So I don't know. Do you have any other like major fights that you want to talk about? Because I have like maybe one more. But like I don't know.
We kind of went over it. I can't remember if it was me specifically or someone else, but the breaking point comes to mind. That or the cat fist comes to mind. It's a lot of earlier stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess like what I wanted to talk about specifically is just like how we want to talk how he like draws the fighting in Ranma. I like how she draws like the autonomy. I like how she draws how would Ranma fight versus how Ryoga would fight versus how Moose or Shampoo would fight. Like Ryoga again, let's talk about. He's a lot more stiff. He's like like a lot of his attacks, like you can feel a lot of weight behind, like the punches and the kicks and whatnot.
Yeah.
And male and female Ranma, like male Ranma, kind of backs it up, like Ryoga, where he can produce a lot of weight behind his attacks. Where as female Ranma is mostly, it's a lot more light on her feet, a lot more like Chun-Li, just like a lot of more kicks, a lot more like jumping up and doing whatever. And with the other weapons like Moose, he has to be really tactical in space and how he manipulates like if my opponent is standing like 5 feet away from me, I need to use like this weapon, or my opponent is standing like 20 feet away from me, I could use like a chain and sickle or something like that. And I guess if you want to talk about Shampoo, she doesn't. Again, she like we mentioned, she doesn't have a fighting style. She just kind of has her big clubs or whatever he knocks down doors with.
Yeah, when she wants to fight seriously, she's got her weapons.
Yeah.
But other than that, she just kind of does whatever.
Right.
Honestly, Cologne and Shampoo also feel sort of anything goes.
Yeah.
Cologne is also like a 200-year-old old lady that she just knows everything. And Shampoo just knows whatever her grandma taught her. Just there doesn't seem to be a theme to anything. But even then, like, as we discussed in the Shampoo episode, like, she does have the prideful warrior thing. She doesn't train, but she does take fighting seriously when she does do it. So yeah, her motions also feel different. They're a lot more like, there's a bit more dignity to them.
And isn't Cologne, one of her, like, specific fighting moves is she just uses her staff that she stands on, and she'll, like, poke and, like, kind of strike with. I guess, like, that is...
Yeah, she does use the staff for a lot of things, including, like, the little pogo, like, Scrooge McDuck pogo with the stick.
But yeah, I mean, just overall, I find that, like, her just drawing out, like, what would Ranma do, and, like, how, even, like, after he gets used to, like, fighting and martial arts, he still plays around with them a lot. Like, I think there's a couple panels where, like, he has to hold, like, this goldfish bowl, and Ryoga's, like, trying to, like, pick a fight with him, and Ranma, like, kind of throws the pot or goldfish bowl, and then punches Ryoga in the nose, and it catches it again within like half a second. And just like those panels really show, like, oh, yep, she knows. Ryoga knows how to draw fluidity and like motion, and it really, shows in like, oh, Ram stands here, he throws it up, throws a punch, and it catches the bowl. Like, it's really graceful. Whereas Ryoga kind of stumbles back on his feet, like, oh, what happened? How did Rama hit me? Like, it was so quick. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. She is very good at conveying motion through panels and like the timing, and that works for like serious action
Yeah,
scenes,
it really does.
but also for comedy.
Yeah.
The comedy also benefits from this. Like a good example, I forget if I mentioned it when we covered that episode on the show, but like the episode or the manga story where Rama's mom is teaching Rama and Akane how to cook. There is a joke that I thought was absolutely hilarious because of the comedic timing of the panels. Because it's when she tries Akane's food. It's like one panel, she's like putting the food to her mouth. The next panel, she is half passed out. Like she's halfway to the floor, instantly passed out. And then the third panel is Ranma has propped her back up and she looks fine, and she's like, "That's not too bad, Akane."
Yeah.
And the fact that these motions are conveyed in 3 panels makes it so much funnier that like the lack of motion, the lack of movement between the panels, like she's eating the food and then the next panel she's in the middle of passing out. And in the third panel, Ranma has her propped up because he knows what to expect. He just pushes her back up and she's back to normal. Compare this to how they animated it when they covered that scene in the anime, or it was an OVA because it happened after the anime ended, but the way they did it is it doesn't have the same timing. It's like she eats the food, then we get the musical sting, then we get like the zoom in, the music, her making the face, then she starts passing out in slow motion, and then Ranma has to run in. He's like, "Oh no, mom!" And then he catches her, and then while on the ground in Ranma's arms is when she's like, "That wasn't too bad." And it just completely removes the comedic elements of those panels because of all this unnecessary motion.
Yeah, that was. Sorry. That was one of the points. I believe someone else I watched a YouTube video of talk about manga versus anime, where sometimes the original manga is always going to be better because it has the power to portray actions and moments in very specific steps, and you're following up like each panel, and it's funny because it hits. Whereas the anime will just animate the whole scene fluidly, and it lost all its comedic timing because now like the three part joke is split up into like 16 parts.
Yeah.
And we could also mention like how we don't need to adapt some pieces of the manga because it just sits perfectly within the manga itself. It doesn't help to adapt this joke or this story arc or these specific moments because it's already done in a certain way where we can't really make it better by just trying to adapt it into animation, where you're just gonna have to do something else completely different.
Yeah. When animating these types of things, sometimes they still come across really, really good. Yes. It's just that you have to know what you're doing. I've complained before about how like the remake is faithful almost to a fault because it's doing things 1-to-1 from the manga, but like they're 2 different mediums. And things like that are a good example of like you need to understand why this works in a comic format and how you can have that same energy in an animated format. Cause sometimes the remake has really, really good animation and comedic timing with the animation, but for the most part, the remake is a lot more grounded in reality.
Yes.
And even the classic anime has those moments where, like, now that we see the action happening in slow motion, it's not as funny. But we do occasionally get moments where they do have the motion feel funny because it's being directed and animated by people that do understand that. So, like, even though in this example it's a lack of motion, that lack of motion exists because Rumiko Takahashi understands motion. She understands what different motions convey and how to convey that through still images. And that pays off really, really well in certain action scenes. Um, as as someone who has been complaining for years that One Piece is way too dense visually, that like I can't even tell what is happening in half the action scenes. I really, really have a lot of respect for this because when you're watching or when you're reading the comic form of Ranma, there are good motions like that. And I do feel like the latter half of the manga loses a bit of that as she just kind of goes through the motions. Like a good example is Ranma standing on Ryoga's head. Pretty much any time Ryoga's introduced, Ranma just jumps on his head. And it's just a goofy thing of like, hey Ryoga, what's up? He's like, get off of me.
Yeah.
But like, once it becomes a running joke, obviously she's not gonna waste panels to set up the joke every time. It's just Rama's instantly on Ryoga's head. There's no motion implied at all. It's just a reference to the previous times he did it. So the joke doesn't land as hard. And we just get stuff like that where like it's just not the same. But whenever she does try to have serious action, you still see that. You still see that she has mastered motion through still images. And I think that's the difference between a good Ranma action scene and a bad one is mastering motion. Cause again, it's harder to talk about this in a non-visual medium, but like yeah, sometimes Rama fights are just actually good. Again, sometimes they're just skill checks. There's no puzzle to solve. There's nothing Rama has to figure out. He just has to punch better than that guy.
It's really refreshing to see from the ground up. Rama always had good fight scenes. It always understands how to portray motion and impact and just like different fighting styles, and you can see that with the characters. You can see how each character would fight. You can see like, oh, if we establish Ryoga, is much more or supposedly physically stronger. Like him doing an uppercut motion should send all these characters flying, or how Rama after learning this technique should be able to sweep someone off their feet or something like that. And it really helps with the comedy too, where all these silly all the silly movements and like goofy actions can be depicted just as well as if like the going back to the burglary fighting style where Rama can steal the foundation of the house, like the whole like family just sinking down into the earth because like there's no house left. That movement and picture shown. If you can do it really clearly as a fighting scene, you can definitely do it in the comedy as well.
Yeah, and this is one of the many reasons why I wish we got this with more characters. Because when you were listing examples, like, yeah, you listed Moose. Moose has a completely different and unique fighting style, which of course means his movement is also different. Part of his clothes are designed to conceal his weapons. He can pull anything out. But unfortunately, after like his second appearance, we pretty much never see him fight unless it's for a comedic moment, in which case he just sends out like a million chains and weapons and it's just a punchline. We don't really get to see the movement. We don't get to see him do anything with this. But like, he's so unique, and most of the characters are, that like, if we ever did get something like that, if Moose got to have a proper fight against another character, if Moose got to learn a new technique, it probably would have looked really cool.
Yeah, like, you think about what if Shampoo fought Akane, but in this instance, Akane actually has a more structured karate style, and Shampoo has, like the older Chinese kung fu fighting styles where like in Ranma where he learns to brainwash Akane and wipe her memories. Like, what if that was the fighting style?
Yeah.
Like, she just needs to attack her head, versus Akane has a traditional karate style, and she has to play keep away, but all her stances don't really allow her to do that because she needs her opponent kind of to stay still and all that.
Yeah. Like I said, Shampoo has like an air of dignity in her motions, which is why I wish she had a more like properly established fighting style instead of just doing whatever. Because like a good example is the noodle race arc. Because in that one, she just has like these food-based, like noodle-based martial arts techniques. Like she does like a Chow Ming attack where she wraps it around your neck and does stuff. And it's like, what? When did she learn to do that?
Yeah.
Why does she have this weird food base? Like, I know her grandma runs a restaurant, but it's not like Shampoo is ever food themed outside of this one fight where she just happens to have food on hand. Which is what one of the things that makes the anime version slightly more interesting, because in that one they replaced Shampoo because they did the episode out of order. So that one, instead of Shampoo, it's an original character that is food themed. She is the heir to this like food delivery company, and her whole thing is food-based martial arts. She knows how to use noodles because that's what she's been taught. It is themed to her specifically, and that's more interesting than Shampoo just doing something once and then she never does it again. Cause yeah, Shampoo does have unique things to her. All the main characters do. Hell, even the lesser ones. While I was looking for like footage or manga panels, at one point I found like there is a scene in an arc about Gosen Kugi. It's a goofy one where like he gets like a mail order like Iron Man suit that runs on like 50 batteries and it only lasts for like 6 minutes. But as if he can get to Ranma in time, I can punch him really good. But like that arc begins with Gosen Kugi being bullied because he's the little wimpy nerd guy, and there are these big tough guys like, give me your money. And he's like, okay, if you want. And then he pulls out his like hammer and nails and tries to hit them. And I remember when I saw that, I found that so fascinating because it's like Gosen Kugi's whole thing is that he's weak. He can't even think to fight Ranma because he knows like I'm not a fighter. But when being attacked by bullies, he still has his unique style. He still has his little voodoo dolls and this theme where he tries to trick them. He's like, "Oh, of course, let me give you my money." Yeah. And then they beat him up. But like he tried to use his hammer and nails. And like the fact that all the characters have unique things to them. I said before in that OVA, like one of the characters uses a ribbon, like Kodachi, but she's doing different things that Kodachi doesn't do. She's using a ribbon the way Ranma would. And it's just like, imagine if Kodachi was allowed to do new things with her ribbon instead of just the same thing every time. Imagine if Tachawaki Kudo, age 17, would actually learn. Well, actually, he does learn, but it's treated as a joke.
Yeah.
His like little watermelon smashing technique.
Oh, yeah.
All these characters, they have such unique styles and movements to those styles. It's not just like on paper they're creative. It's like visually their fighting styles are distinct. It's why there are so many fighting games based on Ranma, because it's such an obvious thing to do. It's really easy to make a roster, and like I just wish we got more of that, because there's definitely potential there to like make for some good action.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate that the remake is being so faithful, because that means that despite them showing that like the animation quality in that show is really good and that they could do new stuff with the characters, they're probably not gonna, because the manga didn't. So yeah, I suppose that's a good breakdown of like the different, like how the fighting styles influence the narrative, how they can vary. We've listed some examples, good and bad examples of stories that utilize those parts of it, because again, Ranma isn't just a romantic comedy that happens to be about fighting. The series is at its best when all three elements are coexisting together equally. A good arc is one that's funny and still has good action in it, but also good romance and character development. And there's not a lot that do all three of them perfectly, but the ones that do, I think, are some of the best arcs. And it's just a shame. Like, if you do enjoy the action, you get less and less of that in the manga, except for those big moments, like with the Ryu arc, where it's just like, well, now for the next 12 chapters, it's gonna be just action. Which, that's fine too, but I liked it when the different parts coexisted.
Yeah, I wish the fighting, along with like the romantic story arcs and points, have a little more, be a little more linear. Like when Rama learns like one technique, it's just gonna come back like a little bit, or it's gonna be mentioned, throughout like the next fight. Like it seems like every time there's a new technique introduced, Rama has to like learn how to fight again all together because this technique is so powerful and whatnot. He doesn't really like, oh, let me try like what I have I learned already and try to counter it. He has to like really break down this new technique, this new fighting style to like get through it.
Yeah, because like the few times he does do that, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Like I think going back to the breaking point was mentioned like a couple times after, but all in all, it was kind of forgotten. Like it was like, oh yeah, Ryoga can do that. He just doesn't do it anymore. Like even though it doesn't kill anything, like it's a great distraction. You poke something, you poke a boulder and it explodes. Like that's definitely getting someone's attention.
He's technically doing it constantly. It's just that after like the first 2 or 3 times, it becomes a punchline.
Yeah, actually,
it becomes a joke where like he will like accidentally poke a wall, like because he's talking to Akane and he's just fidgeting with his fingers. But because he knows the breaking point technique, him fidgeting with his fingers means he's poking holes into the wall like it's nothing. Like any solid thing made out of stone or wood or some kind of solid matter will just be like butter to him. It's another one of those things of like, I think he's doing something key-based, because the whole point of him learning it is that like, no, don't break the rock, shatter it. Like, channel it, like, destroy its like central chakra point or whatever. Like, it's a specific like acupuncture thing, but for like inanimate objects. Find the little core of the object and it will shatter. And as I said, most of the time it's just being done for comedy. So it's not even like a thing that he does in fights usually. It's often either him fidgeting or he gets lost, so he just starts like smashing whatever's in front of him. It doesn't really factor into how he fights usually.
Yeah. I feel like we went through a lot today. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to like quickly bring up before we kind of cap end this?
No, I think we got some pretty good examples. Again, I used to like veto this idea because I'm like, what's there to say about like the martial arts element? Mainly because, like I said, it's harder to talk about in a non-visual format. It's similar to when we first talked about the music of like, what's there to say about like the soundtrack other than, yeah, this sounds good.
Yeah.
So I focus on like the history of the music more than the music itself.
Yeah.
But like here it's like, it's hard to say that like, yeah, this fight looks good, but like sometimes they do. Sometimes they do look good. And that's why there are some arcs I would like to see in like a 3rd season of the remake. 'Cause they can do that. They have a better budget. They're able to do visual things they couldn't before. That seems to be a strength to the remake that they could lean into. But who knows if we'll even get another season. So for now, a lot of these stories, especially since as I said, it became further and further apart as the manga continued. A lot of those are just in the manga.
Yeah.
All we have is Rumiko Takahashi's art, and that's pretty cool. But it's not the same as it being animated. Those are 2 different mediums. So I certainly wouldn't mind seeing them in a different way. 'Cause there's definitely stuff there that's worth preserving. I can kind of see why. Because, like, Rumiko Takahashi's, like, first 3 manga were very comedic. But then after Ranma, she mostly did serious stuff. Like, after Ranma, she then went on to do Inuyasha.
Yeah.
Which is all action.
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe she got, she wrote, she got her fill of the comedy and, slapstick writing, and just oh, let's try just straight action, and then Inuyasha popped up.
Yeah. Like, between the start of Urusei Yatsura and the end of Ranma, that's over a decade of goofy comedy. Yeah. Hell, even Akira Toriyama, by the end of Dragon Ball Z, that's a very different tone to the early goofy comedic Dragon Ball arcs. So, yeah, it makes sense that it would evolve, but, yeah, you could sort of feel how, the motion, the movement, the action, those are things that she did have a good grasp on, and I could understand why she would then decide to do something that focused more on that. So, even if it's not a thing I do discuss much, as you pointed out, I don't really talk about it much, I often gloss over them, it is still a big part of Ranma. It is still noteworthy.
Just want to you mentioned Dragon Ball, everyone forgets that Akira Toriyama also made Dr. Slump before this, and Dr. Slump is even more cornball,
even more comedic,
zany, ridiculous comedy, and you get to see a hints of that in Dragon Ball, and just pretty much got wiped out in Dragon Ball Z. But don't forget, Akira Toriyama came from poop jokes. It's so many poop jokes. It's every chapter there's the cartoon drawn poop on a stick just running around, and sometimes that poop is sentient, sometimes that poop isn't sentient, sometimes that poop isn't even human poop, it's animal poop. But
I still love the running gag we occasionally get implying that Arale is the strongest being in the Dragon Ball universe simply because she's a cartoon.
She has what was Hammer Space, right? That power. Yeah, she has that. No, she's strongest character.
Yeah. You can't defeat Bugs Bunny. He has cartoon logic on his side.
She's gonna do the she has stick out her arms, flip her hands up, and then does, I forgot her catchphrase, little sound bit noise. But she's just gonna bulldoze you, dude. That's what she's gonna do. Yeah, no Kamehameha. Yeah, it's gonna stop that.
It is funny you mentioned Hammer Space. I recently learned that term came from the Ranma fandom.
Huh. You're kidding me. No, you're kidding me.
I always assumed it was in reference to, the Looney Tunes and stuff, because,
that's what I thought.
Hammer Space as a concept existed before Ranma, but apparently the term originated from the Ranma fandom. Nothing really used that word to describe the concept of cartoons pulling object out of nowhere until Ranma fans started using it to describe Akane pulling out a literal hammer. It's a Ranma specific thing.
That's insane, considering that Tom and Jerry uses that as their main gag of Jerry pulling out a giant bat and smack.
Yeah, again, the concept of Hammer Space existed. I guess if anyone gave it a name prior to Ranma fans calling it that, it didn't stick because no one apparently used that term specifically. They just didn't call it that. I don't know if it even had a name until fans decided to call it that, which makes sense. Yeah. I mean, in the era of TV tropes is when a lot of staple things, a lot of wikis started being hey, here's this thing that's been done by a million stuff, but it doesn't have a name. We need a name for it. And I guess the internet just made it easier for stuff like that to catch on. If someone did come up with a name for the concept of Hammer Space, where are you going to put that? Who was publishing academic papers about Tom and Jerry's Hammer Space in the 1960s?
No, that's a purely 2020 era video essay.
Yeah.
on YouTube that's like 6 minutes. Yep,
so
that's never gonna exist back then.
So when you stop and think about it, I guess it does make sense that it didn't have a name before then. It's just interesting to be like, oh, I guess that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Things keep coming from Ranma that I didn't expect.
Yeah, I know, like, you mentioned, like, this podcast and, like, the idea of, like, deep diving into Ranma is never really about Ranma itself. It's about trying to find your own niche interest and, like, going from there. But I'm surprised how much, like, we keep digging and finding in Ranma that relates to my current hobbies and tastes and whatever. And
yeah.
such. Yeah. So I don't know. You picked a good one, I guess. You picked a great one.
I think I picked a good one. I don't think I would have gotten the same if I decided to do like a Pat Labor podcast.
Yeah, I don't think we might have found something with Inuyasha, but I don't think we will find it in like Urusei Yatsura, for example, because Alien or Ogre Brides hasn't really stuck on in anime. No.
I am curious, maybe, because, like, Urusei Yatsura didn't really exist in English. Like, Ranma was one of the first anime in general to get a major push in the West.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm curious if, like, the Urusei Yatsura fandom in Japan maybe has some interesting things going on there that we just never got over here.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
I bet there is a Japanese equivalent to the term hammer space. Who knows where that came from? It probably came from something else that you wouldn't expect, if it exists. I don't think they're literally saying hammer space, but who knows? No. Maybe it did catch on.
It's probably the the tokusatsu, the Power Rangers, the Kamen Riders. Like, they keep pulling stuff out their utility belts. I don't know what the term is, the Japanese equivalent term, but I bet there's something out there.
Yeah, I bet there's some interesting fandom terminology that we just don't have over here. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
There could be other weird stuff that Ranma is the source of in Japan that I will just never know.
We keep mentioning the Chinese like influence and the mysticism and like the fashion and like even the food and the fighting styles and like whatnot. Is there even like a specific Chinese fandom of Ranma that we haven't even I don't know any. I find this is mostly the West and a little bit of Japan, but mostly like kind of in America.
I think Ranma was pretty like widespread in other countries. I know in my search, like I found out stuff about like, oh, apparently in the Philippines they would put like unrelated Japanese music in the commercials for Ranma, so Filipino fans associate Ranma with those songs, even though they're not from Ranma.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess Pizzicato 5 is just a Ranma band in the Philippines, as far as fans are concerned.
Yeah.
That's the weird trivia stuff like that. I like learning about it, but it's unfortunately hard to find when you're only searching things in English. But yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. Well, all we did was just talk about kung fu fighting and how that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. And as we all know, those cats are fast as lightning.
Yeah. So, what's also pretty cool is this podcast itself. If you're at the end of these 2-ish hours, hopefully you enjoyed them. If you want to see more, I don't know, maybe consider writing an email to ranmapodcast@gmail.com. I don't know what to write about. I keep saying it, but I don't really have much to suggest. If you want me to answer questions, why not? If you want to just...
What was that email again?
Oh, right, yeah, ranmapodcast@gmail.com. I'm glad you asked.
Right, cool, awesome. ranmapodcast@gmail.com. Send your letters, questions and concern over there.
Yeah, I might not read them, but I might read something that makes me go like, oh, that's a good topic to make an episode out of. But yeah, there's that. I also set up a coffee. I just put the link in all these episodes. Just cause I've spent enough evenings where all I did was just edit something, and I'm like, yeah, if someone gives me like $5 or something every couple of months, that could make it worth it. But it doesn't seem like a thing I can really promote beyond just saying it exists. But hey, that's that. Do you have anything you'd like to promote?
Well, considering a trend that I don't really have much to promote, I do have something to recommend. So you know about G Kids, the production, yeah. So I guess they are grabbing the license to classic movies as of late, specifically Hong Kong cinema. They just did a 3-day release, or 3-day release of Hard Boiled. That's a classic John Woo film. So if you are you ever seen Max Payne, you ever seen The Matrix, Bullet Time, diving and shooting guns and crazy explosions, that came from John Woo, or that came from Hard Boiled. Not really exclusively, but Guns Akimbo came from Hard Boiled. Really cool stuff. When I'm saying this now, this is way past the release date, so sorry y'all missed it. But in March, they are re-releasing, again, another 3 event, Better Tomorrow. That's another classic John Woo film. It's a classic mobster kind of revenge story, so don't miss it if you can. Don't miss it. It's worth your time. I gotta promote that. That's a classic movie out there. If you like classic things, go watch that classic movie. And yeah, that's all for me.
That sounds like a good recommend. I like when stuff gets recommended. I read a couple chapters of Natsume's Book of Friends because of that one note from the person that sold me the art book.
Awesome.
It was alright. But yeah, hopefully everyone had fun. Hopefully, if you want to see some good action, there are some episodes you should maybe not watch. Not all of Ranma stuff has good action in it, but some of them is pretty good. I think the second Ranma movie's better than the first in every way. I didn't really like the action in the first movie. The second one's got pretty good one. You guys should maybe watch it. Make sure no one's around to see you. There's some scantily clad stuff in there.
Yep. Yeah, that's also another part of Ranma. There's good action.
That is also a part of Ranma. It's good when all of it comes together. But you're gonna have to pick and choose which parts mean more to you. Anyways, have fun, everyone.
Y'all take care. Have fun. Good night.